Hey, I'm Mike Devries. I'm going to show you how to do a color portrait from start to finish. I'm going to kind of talk about all the different stages, step by step, from stencil, placement, some color theory, technique, just going to cover everything. For those that have read my book, Let's Be Realistic, this is just going to be kind of an extension to it. New thoughts, ideas, different technique and whatnot, just a little advancement to it. This specific tattoo I tattooed on Cecil Porter. He's a good tattooer. He used to work for me. How this tattoo came about was, I wanted to do a DVD, obviously, and I mentioned let's do a portrait of my wife, all vampired out, all bloody, fangs, the whole nine. Well, he said, I'd rather have a portrait of you than your wife. So we went down to the hardware store and bought some lights and did like a full-on photo shoot, set up lights and all that good stuff, just to make it kind of crazy. Now the lights that I used, it wasn't like full-on professional lights. At Lowe's it was $5 for a little light and $1.50 for a light bulb. We bought a bunch of different ones, came back to the shop, just kind of hooked it all up and just sat there and took probably 100 photos. I always recommend taking your own photo reference. Just you as an artist has an eye for what you want it to be, certain angles. Laying the groundwork for sure for a tattoo requires organization, preparation, and planning. The first step of which is focusing on your reference material. It's extremely important. Excellent reference is essential for a good realistic tattoo, as the image you decide on and utilize will guide the entire project. Pay close attention to the characteristics that distinguish a mediocre piece of reference from an exceptional one. And you could do that by doing it yourself, because you as an artist, you know what you want it to look like. And then obviously the quality, the file size of the picture. You don't want to find a little image off of Google that's 100 by 100 pixels and try and blow that up. It's not going to look good. So just take it full file size, put it on your computer, take hundreds of pictures if necessary. It's just all that prep work is just very important. When I'm making my stencil, as you see here, make sure that you stencil everything. Even if you don't use it when you're tattooing, at least all of that is there. Where you just saw, I check, make sure that I'm doing everything. Just double check underneath your reference photo there. Make sure that everything is dark enough. That's the main thing. I'm pushing down very hard. It's very important. Another way that you could do it is just put this piece of paper directly on top of the carbon, and then the actual printout here would be your stencil. You don't have to push as hard. The only thing that you run into sometimes is this paper is a little bit thicker. So for it to wrap around certain areas, like around the upper arm where somebody might be kind of muscular and it has a lot of dips and bumps and whatnot, it won't fold as nice. So I like using that top sheet of the thermal paper. It just molds better to certain areas, but you just got to push hard. And as you see here, I'm using one of those turquoise Prismacolor pencils. The letter H is the best one that I have found. You could push really hard and the tip doesn't break on you. Just remember, just be very specific and meticulous as you incorporate the geometric forms, shapes, and shadows. Think of your stencil as your grid, the framework and structural template that will guide the direction of the project and help to orient you through the project, kind of like a paint-by-numbers kit that you might have done as a child. Remember that more time you spend on the stencil, making it easier to understand and read, the smoother and faster the tattoo will go. One thing that I do like to incorporate is little X's in all my little black spots. It just kind of helps when you're tattooing. If you see an X, you know it's just black. You don't have to refer back to the stencil as often, which will just make the tattoo go quick.